Part 1. The Shadow Before the Comeback. 7 signs you are about to experience the biggest comeback of your life. According to Carl Jung, encountering this message is not a coincidence. Jung believed that the psyche operates with intention. When certain ideas surface at specific moments, it is because something deep within you is already shifting. From a Jungian perspective, this is not random curiosity, it is preparation, a signal that your inner world is approaching a turning point. Before any real comeback begins, there is a stage that almost everyone misunderstands. People expect motivation, clarity, or sudden confidence, but Jung argued that transformation never starts with light, it starts with darkness. Not dramatic darkness, but a quiet psychological one, a sense of inner disorientation, emotional detachment, or the feeling that the identity you lived through no longer fits who you are becoming. You may notice that the things that once defined you now feel empty. Goals lose their emotional charge, roles feel heavy, even success can feel strangely hollow. Externally, life might appear stable. Internally, something feels misaligned. Jung did not see this as failure. He saw it as a signal. When the psyche outgrows an old structure, it begins to dismantle it from the inside. This is not collapse. This is preparation. Jung called this stage the encounter with the shadow. The shadow is not just fear, weakness, or negativity. It is everything you were forced to suppress to adapt, belong, or survive. Your unexpressed emotions, denied instincts, unrealized potential, and buried truths all live there. Anything that did not fit the image you learned to maintain was pushed into the unconscious. And when transformation approaches, life brings you back to what you avoided. That is why, before expansion, you are pulled inward. Before confidence returns, uncertainty rises. Before clarity appears, confusion takes over. This darkness is not punishment, it is alignment. The psyche clears what no longer serves so something more complete can emerge. Many people mistake this phase for regression. They think they're losing progress or falling behind. But from a Jungian lens, what is actually happening is reorganization. The old identity is dissolving because it is incomplete. The psyche refuses to move forward while fragmented. During this stage, distractions stop working. Validation feels temporary. Achievements no longer satisfy. You may feel emotionally flat or unusually tired. This emptiness is not decay. It is space. Space being created for a more authentic self.
Jung believed that when the conscious ego can no longer sustain its story, the unconscious begins to speak. You start questioning your choices, relationships, and direction, not because life is unfair, but because your awareness has deepened. You can no longer tolerate cycles that keep you small. Your intuition sharpens. You become sensitive to inauthenticity in others and in yourself. Situations that once felt normal now feel draining. You recognize where you have been betraying your own needs to maintain comfort or approval. These realizations are uncomfortable, but they are necessary. They belong to the shadow. The shadow does not appear gently. It disrupts your inner stability. It exposes contradictions between who you are and who you pretend to be. But this confrontation is also liberating, because this is the moment you stop abandoning yourself. Emotionally, this phase may feel like sadness, anxiety, or being lost, but Jung would say this is recalibration. Your soul communicates in sensations before language. It knows when you are ready for a return, but it will not allow you to carry the old version of yourself forward. This is symbolic death, not physical, but psychological. the collapse of outdated patterns, identities, and illusions. Jung famously said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain, but this pain is meaningful. Every emotion carries information. Sadness reveals what no longer has life. Anger exposes boundaries that were crossed. Exhaustion shows what you have been carrying for too long." Nothing is random. During this phase, synchronicities often appear. Repeating patterns, meaningful coincidences, unexpected realizations. Jung described these moments as signs that the inner and outer worlds are aligning. Your sensitivity increases, and life begins to communicate symbolically. At the same time, masks begin to fall. Relationships shift. People reveal their true nature. Situations you once tolerated become unbearable. This is not punishment, it is purification. Life removes what is misaligned with who you are becoming. And beneath all this discomfort, something quiet but powerful emerges. Even when motivation is low and clarity feels distant, a deep inner part of you refuses to collapse, a subtle knowing that something significant is unfolding. Jung would identify this as the self, the organizing center of the psyche, guiding you forward. This strength does not arrive as excitement, it arrives as endurance, as the ability to stay present in uncertainty, as the refusal to return to an identity that no longer fits. When life prepares your greatest comeback, it first strips what is false. When it expands you, it empties you. When it aligns you, it disrupts you. Facing the shadow is not the end, it is the doorway. And if you are here now, something within you already knows this is the beginning. Part 2. When the ego begins to collapse. After the encounter with the shadow, something deeper begins to happen. What once felt like quiet discomfort starts to turn into structural instability. The old identity you lived through for years can no longer hold. Jung described this phase as the beginning of ego dissolution, not destruction, but collapse. A collapse that feels frightening precisely because it removes what once made you feel certain. The ego is the story you tell yourself about who you are. It is built from roles, habits, beliefs, and expectations, many of which were formed unconsciously to help you survive, not to help you become whole. For a long time, the ego works. It gives direction. It creates predictability. It allows you to function. But when growth demands expansion, the ego resists, and that resistance creates suffering. This is where many people panic. They try to fix the feeling. They distract themselves. They search for motivation, validation, or external reassurance. But Jung warned that clinging to the old ego during transformation only prolongs the pain, because what is collapsing is not your value, it is your limitation. This is why, during this phase, life often removes external anchors. Relationships that once defined you weaken. Social roles feel distant. Even your sense of ambition changes. What once felt urgent no longer does, and what you once ignored now demands attention. This stripping away is not random. It is intentional. Jung emphasized that you cannot build a true self on top of a false one. The ego must lose its grip so that the psyche can reorganize around authenticity rather than adaptation. This is why ego collapse often feels lonely, because you are no longer operating from borrowed identities. Emotionally, this stage can feel heavy. There may be grief for the person you thought you were, fear of the unknown, even shame when you realize how much of your life was lived unconsciously. But Jung insisted that shame is not meant to paralyze you, it is meant to wake you up. As the ego loosens, awareness increases.
You begin to see patterns clearly. You recognize how certain wounds shaped your behavior. You understand why you tolerated what you should not have. You notice how fear influenced your decisions. This clarity can be painful, but it is also empowering, because what becomes conscious can finally change. At this point, many people mistake ego collapse for weakness, but Jung would say the opposite. This is strength in its earliest, quietest form. Strength that no longer needs to prove itself. Strength that does not rely on external approval.
Another sign that you are deep in ego collapse is emotional honesty. You can no longer lie to yourself without feeling it in your body. When something is misaligned, your nervous system reacts. When something is true, there is calm, even if it is uncomfortable. This is the self taking the lead. The self communicates through intuition, not logic, through sensation, not explanation. That is why this phase feels irrational. You may feel drawn away from things that make sense and toward things you cannot yet explain. Jung believed this was the psyche guiding you toward integration. Integration does not mean becoming perfect, it means becoming whole. As ego collapses, you stop trying to appear strong and begin to become real. You stop chasing certainty and begin tolerating truth. You stop forcing direction and begin listening. This shift is subtle, but it changes everything. You may still feel lost, but this loss is different. It is no longer empty, it is fertile. In Jungian psychology, this is the moment just before reconstruction begins. The psyche has cleared enough space. The false structures have weakened. Awareness has deepened. Now something new can form, not as an idea, but as a lived orientation. Your comeback does not start with action. It starts with alignment. It starts when the ego steps back and the self steps forward. And although this phase feels slow, silent, and uncertain, it is one of the most powerful stages of transformation. Because once the ego releases control, you are no longer living on autopilot. You are no longer repeating inherited patterns. You are no longer running from yourself. You are listening. And when you listen long enough, a new direction begins to reveal itself, not as pressure, but as clarity. This is not the end of collapse, but it is the end of resistance. And that is why, without realizing it yet, you are closer than ever to your greatest comeback.
Part 3. Embracing the Shadow's Lessons. Once the ego begins to loosen its grip, the shadow steps forward. It is not a dramatic entrance. It is subtle, almost imperceptible, yet its presence is undeniable. The shadow contains everything you have denied, rejected, or repressed: anger, fear, envy, desire, shame. For years you have acted as though these parts do not exist, hiding them beneath layers of logic, distraction, or social performance. But the psyche does not ignore what is denied. It waits, and when you are ready, it confronts you. Meeting the shadow is not comfortable. It forces you to face patterns you have normalized, habits you have justified, and wounds you have buried. You may see how often you betrayed yourself to satisfy others, how many decisions were made out of fear rather than truth. At first, this confrontation feels like chaos. You may feel guilt, regret, or anger. You may even question whether change is possible. But this is precisely why the shadow is necessary. Without it, transformation remains superficial. Without it, the ego merely adapts, repaints itself, and continues to live unconsciously. The shadow teaches you honesty. It does not negotiate or compromise. It points to what you have ignored and asks for acknowledgement. And while this can feel heavy, even painful, it is also liberating. Each recognition, each admission weakens the old defenses. Each moment of acceptance expands the space in which the self can emerge. Psychologically, the shadow is a mirror. It shows the parts of you that you may have projected onto others, that you may have blamed on circumstance, that you may have called bad or unworthy. Jung called this projection a natural defense, but it is also a barrier. Transformation requires reclaiming these projections, integrating them, and understanding that they are part of the whole. Emotionally, this integration is demanding. You may experience waves of discomfort, sudden clarity, or unexpected insight. You may oscillate between shame and awe, fear and excitement, despair and hope. All of these reactions indicate that deep restructuring is underway. The psyche is clearing space, letting go of illusions, and preparing for a new orientation toward life. The shadow's lessons extend into everyday life. Relationships that once seemed stable may now reveal hidden tensions. Projects you once considered essential may no longer resonate. Even personal habits, the routines that defined your days, may feel empty or misaligned. This is intentional. The shadow does not destroy randomly. It dismantles selectively, targeting what no longer serves the emergence of your authentic self. In this stage, awareness sharpens. You begin to notice subtleties in thought, sensation, and emotion that previously went unnoticed. You recognize triggers, patterns, and conditioned responses. You see where fear has dictated action, where avoidance shaped choices, and where you have unconsciously repeated inherited beliefs. This recognition is not intellectual only. It is felt in the body, in the nervous system, in subtle shifts of energy. Gradually, you realize that the shadow is not your enemy. It is a guide, an essential teacher. It reveals the boundaries of the ego, the places where adaptation has replaced authenticity, and the parts of yourself that must be reclaimed before you can fully step into your potential. By embracing the shadow, you reclaim what was lost. Strength emerges quietly, subtly. It is not performative, not dependent on validation. It is grounded in truth, in alignment, in the capacity to face yourself without flinching. You learn that power does not come from control, but from integration. This is the paradox of transformation. You must descend into what feels dark and chaotic to rise into what is real and whole. The shadow, once feared, becomes an indispensable companion on the journey. And as you navigate this inner landscape, you discover that the greatest ally in your comeback is not external achievement. It is your own consciousness, fully awake, fully present, and fully aligned. Part 4. The Emergence of Authentic Will. After confronting the shadow, after standing in the emptiness of ego collapse, something begins to stir quietly within, a subtle yet undeniable force, your authentic will. It is not the will shaped by ambition, approval, or societal expectation. It is not the drive to achieve, perform, or appear successful. This will is quieter, more profound, rooted in alignment rather than desire. It is the self asserting its presence, asking not for recognition, but for fidelity to what is true inside you. In this stage, you notice a fundamental shift in perception. Life no longer demands constant validation. You no longer measure your worth against the achievements or judgments of others. External noise, once overwhelming, fades into background static. You begin to recognize the difference between choices made from habit and choices made from conscious intention. This clarity is not sudden, it is gradual, like light creeping into a room slowly, illuminating corners you had long ignored. Authentic will manifests in unexpected ways. Decisions that once caused anxiety now feel natural. Boundaries that were difficult to assert become effortless. You notice that saying no is not rejection, it is protection. Saying yes is no longer submission, it is alignment. Every action, even small, becomes a reflection of inner coherence rather than social conformity.
Emotionally, this is a fragile phase. You may still feel doubt, uncertainty, or fear. Old patterns attempt to reassert themselves, whispering that you must perform, conform, or prove your worth. Yet, because ego collapse has already weakened their grip, these whispers are softer, easier to observe without reacting. You learn to witness your thoughts and impulses without being dominated by them. This is the essence of autonomy, the ability to act consciously, even amidst inner turbulence. Psychologically, the emergence of authentic will is inseparable from the integration of the shadow. The energy you once resisted, denied, or projected is now reclaimed and redirected. Anger becomes discernment, fear becomes insight, and desire becomes intention. Every reclaimed fragment of the psyche contributes to a coherent self that is no longer fragmented by adaptation or fear. Strength now comes from wholeness rather than defense, from presence rather than performance. As this process unfolds, life outside the psyche begins to mirror the inner transformation. Relationships shift, not because you force change, but because alignment attracts authenticity. Roles you once clung to may fall away, and new responsibilities may arise organically. Opportunities emerge, not through striving, but through resonance. You find that the world responds to presence more than effort, to honesty more than artifice.
This is a delicate balance. Too much attachment to outcomes or approval can still disrupt the flow of authentic will. Yet, as you practice awareness and consistency, your choices become increasingly congruent with your inner truth. Actions feel effortless yet purposeful. Presence becomes the medium through which transformation expresses itself. Ultimately, this phase teaches a profound lesson. Mastery does not come from domination or control, but from alignment, integration, and the courage to inhabit your truth fully. It is a silent revolution, invisible to the world, yet deeply transformative within. And in this revolution, the self steps forward, guiding every thought, every feeling, every action, until you are no longer living a borrowed life, but one that is truly, unmistakably yours.
Conclusion. As you journey through shadow, ego collapse, and the emergence of authentic will, you arrive at a quiet yet profound realization. Transformation is not a single event, but a continuous process of shedding illusions, reclaiming lost fragments of the self, and aligning with your deepest truth. It is a path that challenges, humbles, and awakens you simultaneously. It demands courage to face discomfort, patience to endure uncertainty, and honesty to see yourself without filters. This final stage is not about perfection, it is about coherence. It is about moving through life with intention, guided by the self rather than by habit, fear, or expectation. Each choice becomes an act of alignment, each thought a reflection of awareness, and each action a testimony to authenticity. Life no longer feels like a performance or a series of obligations. It becomes an expression of your true essence, unfolding naturally and powerfully.
You will still encounter doubt, confusion, and resistance, but now, equipped with self-knowledge and integration, you approach these challenges with clarity. You recognize that obstacles are not threats, but invitations, opportunities to deepen presence, refine understanding, and strengthen alignment. The strength you cultivate is quiet yet unshakable, rooted in truth rather than appearance, in being rather than doing. At this point, your transformation resonates outward. Relationships, work, and daily life begin to shift, reflecting the authenticity you now inhabit. You influence not by force or manipulation, but by presence, integrity, and conscious action. The journey continues, but now it is lived from a place of depth and clarity, rather than unconscious repetition. If this journey resonates with you, and you want to continue exploring the depths of the mind, consciousness, and transformation, make sure to subscribe to Sage Mind. Here, we dive deep into the inner workings of your psyche, uncover hidden truths, and guide you toward a life aligned with your authentic self. Your next step toward clarity, growth, and empowerment begins here, together. Transformation is ongoing, subtle, and profound, and by choosing to engage, reflect, and align, you are already stepping into a life that is unmistakably your own.